So we have today shiny widgets. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to review chapter 25 from the Outstanding User Interfaces for Shiny book. And we are also going to take a quick look at chapter 26. It is a small chapter and only talks about one aspect for fine-tuning shinyMobile. So hopefully today we'll cover both chapter 25 and 26, and next week we'll have the Shiny and React chapter that we'll discuss. So this chapter is about using different widgets that are available in the Framework 7 framework that we are using for building the shinyMobile R package. And as the chapter mentions here, there are many widgets that are available in Framework 7. One of those are chat, and then floating point, sorry, not floating point, floating action button, and the gauges. In shinyMobile, we do have gauge widget, and I believe also the floating action button, but I don't think the chat option is available in shinyMobile as of the version 2.0. So today we are only going to take a look at Gauge and some other design widgets that are server side. So to create a Framework 7 based widget, you need to use the app object that we have been creating in the previous weeks, and then use the .widget .create. And then when we want to update anything about the widget, we can use the update function and open function and close function as appropriate for each widget. The chapter mentions that there are some exceptions to this rule of creating a widget. For example, app.navbar is another way to create a navbar, which is unlike other widgets. But this is rare. In most cases, you can create widgets using app.widget. So the first example in the chapter is about using a UI-based widget, which is the gauge in this example. And you have to have the class equals to gauge in this div to generate a gauge widget, which will be a UI-based widget, as I said before. So for that, we need to create a R function, which will be able to generate this tag, the shiny tag, which is essentially a div when it is rendered. And for that, we are creating the F7 gauge function, and it needs to have this value text property that we provide in the options in the input to F7 gauge. And if the value text is null or it's not provided in the options list, then we provide whatever value is provided by the user to this function and multiply that with 100 and represent that as a percentage. And then there are further options here for adding the value in the list and other options, as well as in gauge config, we are creating the shiny tag script. We are using this script because this is where we are using JavaScript. And the important property here is that data for equals to ID. ID is provided also as one of the parameters in the F7 gauge. And this is needed because we know that all the inputs and outputs in Shiny have to have ID. And then here is where we create the JSON, where we provide the gauge properties, uh, which essentially contains the value and other elements like the color of the gauge, and the rest of it is just part of the toJSON function. At the end, we then output a shiny div tag, which has a class of gauge in order to have this property met, and the ID that we provided and the gauge configuration. And this will be rendered as the gauge that we see in this example. So if I run that at my end here, so this is that same F7 gauge function, And um, there's further F7 notification function also. Let's first discuss that and then we'll come back to it. So F7 gauge is a UI based widget. Similarly, notification is another widget, but it is not a UI based widget. It is a server side widget, which does not have any um, predefined UI element. When the app starts, the UI element is generated based on the notification server side that we specify. And that is why in the F7 notification function, we use session send custom message. And that's where we send the notification message, whatever message we want to show. That message is built in this function by providing again the ID and any text that is part of the function input. So this is the server side, and the gauge one is the UI based. So to include these widgets, we need to have, these are functions that we just saw, but we also need the JavaScript that will be able to receive these, what should I say, uh, for example, for notification part, when this custom message is sent, the JavaScript will then be able to receive this message.
Yeah, the client side.
Yeah, yeah, from the client side, actually JavaScript is at the
Mhm.
client side, it
Yeah.
will receive it. Yeah, thank you. Um, so we initialize the widget, but obviously before initializing, we need to have a JavaScript file that where we will put all our widgets. Uh, and we can also create multiple JavaScript files if we want. In this example, we are creating a widgets.js file by using sharpened function, sorry, sharpened library, and we are using the function create underscore JS. And the first thing that we need to provide here are the list of the widgets separately for the UI-based widgets and the server-based widgets. So both of these are in these lists, which in JavaScript are obviously arrays. In this example, we have a gauge, a swiper, and a search bar UI-based widget, and then a toast, a photo browser, and a notification widget, which are server-side. In the chapter, though, we are only going to look at notification and the gauge widgets. And then we concatenate both of these widgets using UI widgets created above, dot concat, then server widget that is also created above. Now in the next step, we need to activate the widget. And within the function, this arrow function that is used in JavaScript, here we provide the logic to how to activate it. And there are several steps. The first step is to first check the index of the widget. And here we are checking if it is more than -1, which as I understand it is checking if there are UI widgets specified. If we check it is more than -1, then it means that yes, there are indices, and that indicates that there are widgets specified. Next step is to initialize each widget that is provided. So in this step, we take the widget and we add dot before it. So it would be dot gauge, for example, just like this. And then for each of those widgets, we do something using a function. So for example, in this case, we are taking each element of the widget that is provided. We then find this property data for ID, which we have specified in our function. So for example, for F7 gauge, we have specified data for ID right here within the Shiny DAG script. So we are essentially looking for that in this element. And once we have that, we parse it in this section. And then we add the ID to the element. So we take the config.element and then add the ID. So this way we can actually get this particular a widget with a particular ID that is provided. Because in a Shiny app, ID could be anything that we specify as a user. And so uh, we need to capture that particular element with that particular ID that is specified. And then we create uh, that widget or cache it using this syntax. We take the app object, and then within widget, we then do create config. Let's see. Okay, let's then look at the first part of it. So we have defined the R functions, F7 gauge, F7 notification. Then we created the widgets.js, so I have that right here. Right now, because I have run everything in the chapter, so this is pretty long. But for now, we'll focus only on the part that we just discussed. So we have the activate widget part, and within activate widget, we have created the element ID or captured it, and we have also uh, created the method which we are calling as W. At the end here, we are using the widget instance in the app data cache. So we take app.data, put our widget there, and specify that particular ID. The syntax here is very tricky. It was difficult for me to understand, but I get the main concept that why we are doing this. We are essentially capturing the widget that is created by our R function on the client side, as Angel mentioned. On the server side, now that is this part, and this part is for those widgets which are server side, which don't have a predefined UI like a gauge. So in this example, we are discussing notification widget. For that, we are in the else statement. So this first section is for UI widgets. Now we are looking at what to do with the server side widget.
Can you
So
go out a little bit to understand what was the if condition?
um, which one?
Okay, -1. So you are getting UI widgets, index widget -1.
Yeah. So we are checking if here we have specified anything. If we have, then the index of the widget will be more than -1.
Yeah, like I think that for notification, when you place that widget, when you go over that list, you won't find it basically, I think.
Yeah, because it's in the server widgets, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. All right.
Yeah,
Although
perfect.
we have concatenated it, so it is still part of UI widgets, but
No, it's part of the widgets, not the UI widgets.
yeah, sorry, yeah, it's part
So
of the
it's
widgets.
like notification should be in widgets, but it shouldn't be in the list of UI. You know,
Yes,
like
yes,
it's
yeah,
like okay, when you are passing, it's part of the UI, and the answer is no, then we go to the else. Mhm.
right, yeah, thanks. So for the notification widgets, and if we have toasts, photo browser, then we are in the else section of the if statement. And here we are using add custom message handler, because remember from the R function that we saw, we are sending a custom message. So if we are sending the custom message, then the JavaScript will receive that custom message using the custom message handler. And so whatever message is being received, we first check if the ID is not undefined. If it is not undefined, then when the widget is opened, then we set an input value using the message's ID, and we make it true. But if the widget is closed, then obviously we do the opposite and we make it false. At the end, we then return the cached widget in the app object and then open it. So this is part of the else statement. And in the, let's see, yeah. So We
independently
need,
for all of them.
yeah, we need to do it for all of the widgets. So we use the for each function, and we use activate widget because that is how we activate each widget. I will get
Okay.
to this part later. All right, so we have talked about UI and notification widgets, and then here is our example for running a Shiny app. In this case, we have used our previously created F7 page function. Here we have a navbar, a toolbar as before. On the server side, we are now using F7 notification function. We provide it with an ID, and we provide the message or the text for the notification. We also provide an option to close the notification after 2 seconds. And since we are setting the ID as in the message, we can then gather it using input $welcome because we have sent the message using that uh, send custom message, and it is now available as an input because we have set the input value using shiny.setInputValue. So now we can use input, welcome, whatever ID we provide here, we can use that. So if I run this, you can see, let me refresh it. You can see that we get that hello message, and at the end here we see notification is true, notification is false, and that is because of the show notification function from Shiny that is using the input of the ID that was set by Shiny. So initially it was true, and as soon as 2 seconds are gone, notification goes away, and the notification input welcome is false.
Yeah, and you're making the event true, so it just goes when it starts.
Yeah. Um, Another aspect that was mentioned in the chapter is updating different widgets. And an example of that is a gauge. So a gauge could have an updated value if something happens on the, for example, in a connected database. So we want to update our widget. Now in Shiny, we are familiar with multiple functions that can update, for example, our slider input or text input. So we have corresponding update functions. But here they use only a single update function. And that update function is update F7 instance. Instead of using update F7 gauge and update F7 swiper, we have a single one, update F7 instance. And for that, again, we need to have um, some modification that we need to do to the config.data. So I have that in the init.js, and it is at the end. So in the config.data, remember config is the configuration object that we created in the previous discussions. And within the data property, we are now using a function that will include the gauge and the tooltips. Tooltips is another example that we'll see in a moment. But here we are updating, sorry, not updating, caching the widgets using config.data. And then within the update F7 instance function, we take an ID of the F7 object that we want to update, the relevant options, and then the session object, which in this case is the get default reactive domain. If we look at the documentation for this thing, let me start this up first. So it is about reactive domains, and reactive domains are a mechanism for establishing ownership over reactive primitives, even if the set of reactive primitive is dynamically created. This is useful for lifetime management, that is destroying observers when the Shiny session that created them ends, and for error handling. So this is because we want to uh, destroy the previously created instance of a gauge object, for example. That's why we provide the session object as the reactive domain. And in this case, we are converting any shiny tag into a character so that 2JSON does not cause any problems for us. So we need to check if what we are going to update is a shiny tag or a shiny tag list. These are the two possibilities. We first check that, and then we basically um, use the list render tags function if what we have is a list. If it is a single tag, then we just simply make it character. And the reason we do that is what's mentioned here, so that 2JSON function work properly. And then we create the send custom message. We call it update instance, and we provide the message. The message, as before, contains the ID and the relevant options that we have provided in this function. So this is the R side of things. Now on the widget side, we need to add a few things. So we need to include the rest of the code that we saw. So within update widget instances, we are now using add custom message handler. That this is the same thing that we saw before, update instance on the R side. And then we take the message that is sent to us. And then this is a bit complicated. Again, I don't understand every single line here, but I get the gist that we are updating our, for example, gauge while destroying the previous instance of that gauge. So let's see if there's anything particular here. Yeah, so we are getting our old instance from app data instance family and then the message ID. The message ID tells us, okay, this is the ID of the object that we had before. We also have the old configuration. And now we create the new configuration using app.utils.extend. So this is essentially coming from framework 7. And then we give it the old configuration, and we give it the options that are obtained from the message that were received from the update F7 instance function from the server side, essentially. So once we have obtained the new configuration, we use the destroy function on old instance. So the previous case that was created is gone. And then we create a new instance using, again, the app object and the create method, where we provide the new configuration. And at the end, once that new instance is created, we then cache it in our app.data. So this is the example of, for example, a gauge object that we want to update. Another example that is provided here is a tooltip. So a tooltip, for example, when we move our mouse over a button, it shows a small tooltip. So this is very similar to what we have seen before. But I think there is an example before looking at that. Yeah. So I tried this example by updating the R function with update F7 instance. It is in the R folder. If I go there. No, sorry, not in F7 page. It should be in widgets.r. Yeah. So I put this here, and then um, we'll discuss the tooltip in a moment. So I then tried building it and then running the Shiny app without loading this package, but it does not update the gauge. So let's first run it without the help from the OS UI code. So I've already loaded the package. Let's run this. So after 2 seconds, it should update. It was 2 seconds. Let me check. Yeah. So we have assist.sleep here for 2 seconds. It should update, but it does not update. So I'm probably missing something, although I've followed exactly all the settings and code, but I don't know what I'm missing. So I have to rerun it and run it with the help from OS UI code. And now after 2 seconds, it should update to 75%. And it also, in this case, updates notification because I specified that.
Yeah, it seems like we are missing a little bit of JavaScript or something like that.
Yeah, probably, but I'm not sure what.
No, no,
So,
no. This is, the JavaScript is just a mystery that just works in that package.
yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate people who have worked on shinyMobile, even the previous version. The one that we have now, the version 2, is pretty awesome. But I think
Yeah.
even the first version of this was pretty awesome because there's so much JavaScript and Framework 7 stuff that is used here. So I really appreciate
No,
that now.
to program to make those options is like terrible.
Yeah,
How
that's right.
many intermediate objects do you need to create in order to get the methods?
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's
But let's quickly look at the Shiny app here
yeah.
because it's useful uh, even as a user of the Shiny mobile package.
Mm-hmm.
So with F7 gauge function, we can give it an ID, we can give it whatever value we want to provide here. And within options, we can provide like the border color of the gauge, the size of the font, the value text color. The chapter discusses that there is a trade-off
Mm-hmm.
because right now we are providing the value between 1 to 10,
Mm-hmm.
and it isn't showing up as a percentage of it. So 0.1 is converted to 10%. Uh, but when we want to update it, it is not very nice uh, in user experience. But that is the compromise we have to have because otherwise we'll have to get in more into the weeds of JavaScript. And so the authors of the Shiny mobile package made the decision to keep it relatively simple, although even to get to that, we have seen that this is a lot of code. So the thing that they were talking about there is that you have to manually give it two things. You have to
Okay.
tell it that the value is 0.75, and then you also provide the value text to yourself to 75%. So I'm not sure how it is working on the version 2. Maybe there's an update, but this is the compromise that they made.
Well, it's not hard for
Yeah, it's
for
not
our
that
user.
hard. Yeah. Yeah, if you can just create your
A
own
paste
function to,
and that's it.
yeah. Okay, for tooltips, it is the similar option. If I check in the chapter, if anything is missing here. So we've discussed activating widgets and this section as well. Yeah, there's this figure that shows initializing and also updating the widgets. Let me zoom in a bit more. So when we are initializing the widget, in this case, it is the gauge widget. we need to find the ID plus the configuration of that widget from the DOM object, which is our document object model, the HTML that is generated. And then within JavaScript, we are looking for the ID configuration, and we create the new instance, and then we save the new instance in the app.data store. So that's how it is initialized. When it is updated, as we have seen before, a message is sent from R through WebSocket to the client side. JavaScript will get the message ID and any options that we have provided. For example, change the color of the gauge, and then it will try to match it and check the ID. If there is an existing object that has the same ID, it will then destroy that and then create the new one. And that is in within app.data as well. Okay, let's see, we have already seen this app. Yeah, so in this section, they discuss the tooltip. And for the tooltip, they create this validate selector function because they want to check either a CSS selector or the ID of the object. So we provide the ID and the selector here in the validate selector, and that's what the JavaScript side is going to look for. And they also created this function for doing this, which ensures that we return the thing A if not null, otherwise it would return the thing B. And then a new R function called as add F7 tooltip is created, which is very similar to what we have seen before, but we are adding ID and selector. The default values are null. This is the reason we are checking for both ID or selector in our validated selector function, because one of those could be null. So we then use the validated selector, and then if the ID is not null, then we create the ID from the session object, the ID that we have provided, not the session object. Session object is only used for namespacing it. And then at the end, we send a custom message to the client side with the name of add tooltip. On the JavaScript side, we then use the add custom message handler. So this is in widgets.js right here. So we store all the created instances in the app data, as we have seen for other widgets. But for tooltip also, we use app.data.tooltips, and then we provide whatever messages received. We check if it is not undefined. Sorry, if it is undefined, then the instance is created. But if it is not undefined, then the instance doesn't need to be created because it's already there.
Yeah.
And then using the add custom message handler, we are receiving the message for update tooltip. And without going into all of this JavaScript, because this was the hardest to understand, I don't completely understand all of it. But essentially, what we're doing is we are first trying to get the instance from the received message, and then we are creating the copy that won't be modified if the object D is destroyed. So I think this will be much more clear when we run this in the app. So let me first run this. So in this case, you can see that the tooltip is created like this. We do have another app that has an option to close it, to toggle the notification. In this case, if I mouse over, no tooltip. If I open it, then the tooltip shows up. So I think this was the last one. Going back to the custom message handler, as I was saying before, we are trying to get the instance and we are naming that instance as T. And in this case, we are creating a copy that won't be modified if T is destroyed. So if our tooltip does not exist, then what I understand from here is that we are using a copy and we are caching it uh, by using object.assign and then providing an object here and the t object, which is essentially the tooltip that we obtained from the message. And then we save this copy to replace the deleted one in the app data. And this we have already seen app.data. And then within square brackets, we are providing the message with the target element. And then within the parameters for the tooltip, we also use the same object and get the parameters and then recreate the tooltip based on the copy configuration. So there are two options here. Either the toggle is on or off. So depending on what is the situation, we create the tooltip or we don't create the tooltip. I don't know if it is practically useful to use that toggle because a user would either want to look at a tooltip or not. They won't be using that toggle, I think. But for the developer, I think it's useful to understand how the app is storing the tooltip or not, depending on what is the situation with toggle. So this is everything about chapter 25. And after reading this chapter, I really appreciate the authors uh, looking at all of this work that has gone to create shinyMobile using Framework 7. Um, Chapter 26 discusses one aspect of shinyMobile, which is creating a disconnect screen. And this is not based on Framework 7. This is based on purely Shiny. The default Shiny apps have a disconnect screen that has a reload notification on the bottom left, which, according to the author here, doesn't look very nice on the cell phone. So what they want to do is they want to create something like this, where you have two options to either reload or I think REC is to, I forgot what REC was. So it's either reloading or refreshing, something like that. So two options pop up on the shinyMobile if you use it instead of the reload option. And for this, they have used, reload and reconnect button. So for this, they have again used JavaScript. So here within Shiny disconnected, if you recall from the first time we were looking at uh, what is running on the JavaScript side when we first run our Shiny app, any Shiny app, regardless of mobile or not, we know that Shiny object has a disconnected property. It also has a connected property. So what we want to do is we want to remove the existing functionality of the reload notification and add the new UI that shows either reload or reconnect links. So for that, they are using the Shiny disconnected object. And then using this JavaScript, which I did not bother to understand completely, they are first removing the removing the existing disconnector screen. This is the existing reconnected code. Sorry, the disconnected code, which will essentially show that reload notification. So we want to remove this. So to remove that, they use the disconnected function.
I think that's
And
an event.
sorry,
I think that should be an event. The disconnect should be an event, a
yeah,
Chinese
yeah,
event.
yeah. So yeah, right. So we have discussed
Mm-hmm.
Shiny events before, and this event is used by a Shiny by
To
default.
trigger, the action.
Yeah, but we don't want to use it anymore.
Yeah.
So we want to replace it with what we want to show on shinyMobile. For that, we first remove the Shiny reconnect stuff. So we take the Shiny connected object, and then we say shiny.shinyapp.on disconnected. This is what adds the gray out overlay if it's not already present. So let me check if this was um,
Okay, like to change the color of the app.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
we do add the gray overlap, but the gray overlap is added in both cases, the default one and also the shinyMobile. I was just
yeah.
trying to recall which one was which. So I think this one is
It's the same. I think it's the same.
yeah, yeah.
Disconnect overlap and perfect. Like you keep it.
Right. Now I remember. So this one was the existing one, and then we replace it with this one. So we take Shiny disconnected, and then we add because now we're using framework 7, so we use
Toast.
app.toast, and within app.toast we add this HTML, and then and this shows us that we can actually use anything else if we are developing the shinyMobile package. And using this toast, we then show this screen, which has these two links, which is nicer on Shiny on the mobile screen. And then here, they also mentioned that if you want to keep the original behavior, you may include the following condition before showing the toasts. So this is another option, but I don't think this is used with shinyMobile package now. I tried a shinyMobile app with version 2, and it was showing this screen when it was disconnecting. All right, so I think this wraps up everything about the case study for shinyMobile package. And in the next week, we are going to start discussing going further section. And the first one there is Shiny and React with the React R package. But in the Poet conference, there was a template that was shared by, I think it was Joe Chang, or no, it was Winston Chang. And he shared a template that uses React with Shiny, and it bundles all the JavaScript that we need there, and we can use that to create Shiny plus React-based apps. So I'll try to compare what React R offers and what that new template offers next week.
Okay. Great. That will be awesome to
All right.
see how we can integrate some, React is, I think, the most important framework right now for developing, and they have a really interesting way to work.
Yeah.